How have you seen a person's life be ruined in a single day? We had extended family together for a holiday, and everyone was making jokes about how my cousin was late. His mom and dad were involved in the jokes, texting him being upset about how he was late and all. Turns out, someone hit him in a head-on collision on his way over and he died on impact. The police knocked on the door to notify the family like a fucking movie. I'll never forget watching the family crumple to the ground. An 18-year-old tried to steal a couple bottles of Hennessy from my store. When I confronted him, he swung the bottle at my head and connected. I rolled with the blows so it didn't do much damage. Charged with assault and robbery by my company, violent crimes offender, and lost custody of his baby. A friend of mine got busted in a drug raid and was caught with half a minivan's worth of weed. Most people measure their weed in grams, some in ounces, a few in pounds. Then there's this dude measuring his in minivans. I was working in a bank. One day the director fired one of his executives. The whole "empty your desk, you're fired" speech in front of everyone. The director was furious, and the guy seemed entirely destroyed. Then he explains to all that this guy gave his login and password to a friend in another branch. The friend used that login, and others, while doing some kind of credit card fraud. Police arrested her, but lacked evidence against the fired guy. So they just fired him on the spot. Obviously, besides losing his job, he was also blacklisted to work in banks or finance. I play poker. I once saw a man on my way in betting about 10K all on one roulette spin. He chose red and lost. He looked defeated. Later that night, a guy at our table told us that he heard the guy on the phone crying in the parking lot trying to explain to his wife that he lost their money. She was screaming and said she wanted a divorce. A kid I went to school with and his sister died in a car crash. They were in the car behind the parents' car driving the older sister to her first year of college. Parents made a turn and no longer saw the kid's car behind them. I would say finding both your kids dead is up there. I was working with a guy, 16, one day when he gets a phone call. His dad, mom, brother and sister had gone to pick up the new family car. His dad took a corner too fast and drove straight into the underside of a bridge. Guy lost his entire family in a split second, and the only reason he wasn't in the car too was because he was at work. My neighbor knocked on the front door early one morning. We'd never met. He introduced himself and wanted me to know why there might be a lot of cars parked in front of the house. All 3 of his children had died in a car accident the night before. One guy I knew found out that he was going to be a father on his graduation night. He was 17, and he looked absolutely destroyed. One of my friends was playing online with me when I hear a knock on his door through the mic. His parents walk in and decide to tell them that he is adopted and that they are getting a divorce. All in one go. No emotional breaks or anything, and my friend just breaks down over the mic as his parents walk out. Yep. At least several times a month we had to take care of a family who learned that their child had cancer that day. Pretty terrible life-altering news. I spent a lot of time distracting kids with board games, coloring while their parents were talking to doctors, crying, and then amazingly pulling it together to continue on. My parents talked about this day for me. I was diagnosed with leukemia when I was between 3 to 4 years old. It was a misdiagnosis, but they said they thought it was a death sentence, and it was horrible. I knew a guy who, within the same 24 hours, learned that his wife of 7 years was pregnant with someone else's child. His wife was filing for divorce, and she was going to try to get their house to herself because she was the primary signer on their mortgage because his credit wasn't so hot. That was brutal to see. Fucking A. A girl in my class got caught with a thermos full of vodka, and when the teacher caught her, she got sent to the principal's office. Well, when the principal asked her why she was drinking, the girl told him that she had been sleeping with the school resource officer. Dude was a cop stationed at the school having sex with a 10th grader. Got dragged out of the school by officers that worked alongside him. At the court hearing they found out he was having sex with 2 more girls at the school. His wife and 2 kids were in the courtroom to support him because he told them he was innocent. That kinda caved when one of the girls had a video of the 2 of them having sex. When I was about 13, I was talking with my best friend at a playground on a hill. Suddenly this lady comes racing down on her bike. She's not wearing a helmet, which was unfortunate because her bike slipped from underneath her, and she goes flying, smacks her head into a corner. I was too young to know this at the time, but I'm almost certain she died instantly. Wear a helmet. Yup, and I did it. Boss had and produced Kitty Norp. It disturbed me so much I spoke with a friend who was a desk SGT the town over and asked what could be done. He passed word along to the chief of the town where it was happening. 2 days later, the biggest cop I've ever seen walked through the door of our shop and asked to see everyone's ID cuffed and stuffed. You should have seen his face when I was summoned to testify at the grand jury hearing. I keep getting asked how I found out. I was approached by the victim and they asked for help. I helped. This was a few years ago. I work in a hospital. Got notified a large trauma was coming in. A minivan got struck by a drunk driver with the grandpa, aunt and 3 kids under 10. The aunt survived. The kids came to my hospital, 1 dead on arrival and the other 2 we couldn't save. Kept them on life support until the parents got there to say goodbye. I'm always going to remember the sound of the mom singing to them. She lost all her kids and her dad in 1 day. Have a friend whose boss got into a gnarly car accident a week ago. Today she was officially told she's paralyzed from the waist down. She was also notified today that her husband died, non-car accident related. I don't know exactly why he passed, but to go from a happy life with your soulmate to not being able to walk and have your life partner is something I can't imagine recovering soon from. My stepdad's life was ruined the day his son, my brother, died. He couldn't cope with the loss, couldn't comprehend the rest of us were hurting just as bad, and turned even deeper into the alcohol and became even more emotionally abusive. Couple years later, when he forced my mom to choose him or me, I watched her make the hardest decision I've probably ever seen her make. She walked away from her husband, the love of her life. I had a former colleague who was doing his residency in general surgery. He had just started his 5th and final year of training. One day, in the middle of a surgical case, the police show up at the hospital for him. A tech pulled him out of the OR, and he was arrested right there on the spot in front of everybody, still in most of his surgical attire. He had to do the walk of shame through the entire hospital, in handcuffs and or scrubs. Turns out his ex-wife had gone to the police claiming that he had molested their children. The children testified to this effect as well. All of us were blown away. This was the sweetest, most cheerful guy ever. Nobody thought him capable of something like this. Sure enough, it came out several months later that the kids' statements were coerced, and that his ex-wife falsified the whole thing. It wasn't the first time she had attempted to screw him over, but it was definitely the most successful. Dude's career and life were fucked. Doing an MRI on a 33-year-old healthy man, because he was a bit dizzy, and finding a golf ball tumor in his brain. Read the radiology report, Google type of tumor, finding only 5% survive. I was part of a notification team that told a mother that her 20-year-old son had died. Watching her collapse, I know that her life would never be the same after that. When I was in EMT school, we were told about a paramedic student, instructor was a paramedic as well, who observed a stabbing call. They arrive at the bar and see a dude with a knife in his abdomen. Medic student takes lead and pulls the knife out, something you never do, as I'm sure you know. Senior medic loses his fucking mind at this dumbass, asking him what the fuck he was thinking. Student freaks out and, you guessed it, puts the fucking knife back in. The patient died as a result. Student lost any chance of having a good job, not even just an EMS, and was charged with the death of the patient. Might have been manslaughter, I don't remember. His entire life was ruined because he freaked out and made a mistake on a call. Not a rookie mistake or a common slip-up, but in about half a minute he ruined his life. Holy shit. Also, the fact the series of events was 1. Man stabbed 2. Thank God EMS is here. 3. Man stabbed again. Coworker got caught stealing and got fired. He went home and told his wife, and apparently she had enough and left him and took the kids. Police found him the next morning in the woods deceased. I saw a man's life just crumble in less than 24 hours. When I say steal, I mean close to $100,000 in precious metals from a cushy federal government job. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.